Shalom. First off, I want to give all honors, all glory, and all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakah Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone GMS who rule well. Shalom to the elect of Israel, beginning with the 144,000, and all Akim pushing the word of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, and the Akwath who listen and learn. To you I say Shalom, and may the Lord bestow mercy and faith upon you as we enter into the last days of this kingdom. This is Brother Halal from the Great Millstone Chicago camp coming at you with another lesson. And while scrolling on Instagram looking for some edification, I came across this video in which this man that you see here is going to try to explain, what the 144,000 is. At the beginning of the video, he even said, I figured it out. I figured out what the 144,000 are. And what he's going to go on to say is that the 144,000, represent a frequency, which is completely off. So I'm going to let this video play. I'm not going to let it play for its entirety because I plan to do a part 2 on the other half of it. But may this lesson be edifying to the elect and to the body.
Thinking 44,044. I know what the 144,000 is. Do you understand? I know how they doing the spells on y'all. I know how God's chosen people are marked. Do y'all understand? For your soul, hear this out. The 144,000 is a frequency. After studying the information on the chakras and the hidden messages in the Bible, I realized that we are supposed to learn the knowledge of both of them side by side. I came to
And that right there is off, man. He said that the 144,000 are a frequency, through the religion of chakras, man, which is rooted in, as you can see here, Hinduism and Buddhism, which is completely contrary to the scriptures, man. I want to read this piece of information from AI Overview. It says the Bible does not mention chakras. While the Bible discusses spiritual realities and the human body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, what chapters like what 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 50, terrestrial and celestial bodies, it does not align with the concept of with the concept of chakras as energy centers. Some Christians interpret certain biblical concepts and practices as aligning with the idea of energy flow, but this is not a widely accepted view within. So, this stuff is off, man. The Bible does not mention frequency. It does not mention any chakras. What it talks about, is spirituality and the prophecies. This is what the Bible is rooted in. And the fact that he said that we're supposed to combine both of these together, he said we're supposed to put them together side by side. Let's get that scripture. Because this religion that he's coming from, talking about chakras, and the Hinduism and Buddhism and spirituality and whatnot, these religions, they have multiple gods and multiple idols and deities that are served according to each chakra, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to go to the book of Matthew chapter 6 and verse 24. It says, no man can serve two masters, for he will either hate the one and love the other, or he will hold to one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve the Most High and Mammon. So the fact that he said that we can put, spirituality and chakras, in the Bible side by side, two completely different worlds, as opposed to religion and truth, which the Holy Bible is the most accurate history book ever written. All the prophecies are written in here. This is the most accurate, most coveted, most desired book written on earth. You cannot combine this with spirituality. That religion is completely self-sufficient. And I plan on doing the part 2, delving into how this stuff is idolatry. But for this lesson, I want to go into the 144,000 and what they represent and why they're not a frequency. This is the book of Revelation chapter 7 and verse 4. And it says, and I heard the number of them which were sealed. And there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Of the tribe of Judah was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Reuben was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad was sealed 12,000. The tribe of Asher 12,000. Of the tribe of Naphtali was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Simeon was sealed 12,000. And then it goes further down and it lists all the tribes with 12,000 men, being sealed from each of the 12 tribes, which adds up to what? 144,000, which were the chosen, the chief of the remnant. Verse 9, it says, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes and had palms in their hands. So, but this great multitude, from all parts of the world were all Israelites, man. Because, so like you're going into the word kindred, it's the Greek word phule, which means a tribe. In the New Testament, all the persons descending from one of the 12 sons of the patriarch Jacob, aka the 12 tribes, which were mentioned, going back to what? Verse 4. And I heard the number of those which were sealed from the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. So it's a very, it's not rocket science. It's not a hard concept to grasp. But this right here is not talking about a frequency, man. This is talking about a chosen number of men that were chosen from the foundation of the earth. And how do we know that they were redeemed from the earth? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 14. And I'll start at verse 1. And it says, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood upon Mount Zion. And we know Yahweh Shai represents the lamb, the ultimate sacrificial lamb who was crucified and died for the sins of his people, the Israelites. And with him, 144,000 having his father's name written in their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. So there were instruments being played. A song was being sung. Verse 3, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins, and that means that they weren't defiled with the different idols, and the philosophies of the earth. They were not defiled to and enticed into committing spiritual fornication against their power. It says, these are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits of the Most High and to the Lamb, which is Yahweh Shai. So this is not a frequency. This is talking about a army, a spiritual army, man. The remnant of Israel being delivered. Which the chief of the elect is the 144,000, man. Which are what? The vessels of honor that were chosen from the beginning. Predestined. This is the book of Romans chapter 9 in verse 17. And it says, matter of fact, I start at verse 18. It says, therefore hath he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and on whom he will he harden it. And then in the NLT it says, so you see, the Most High chooses to show mercy to some, which ultimately the elect, beginning with the 144,000, are going to receive mercy. Who I mentioned at the beginning of the video, being the chief of the elect, who were chosen from the beginning and redeemed from the earth. It says to harden the hearts of others so that they refuse to listen. So he chose the elect and everyone else. He gave them a spirit of slumber and sealed their conscience with a hot iron. Verse 19, that will say then unto me, why doeth he yet find fault? For who hath yet resisted his will? Nay, but, O man, who art thou that repliest against the Most High? Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus? Have not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and another unto dishonor? And ultimately the elect is the vessel of honor. that were chosen. And we are currently laboring, in our everyday lives, on and off the camera, to hopefully be a part of that number, whether we're a part of the 144,000 or whether we end up as a 1/3. We are all laboring to make our calling and our election sure, man. So I'm going to go down, and it says, verse 25, it says, as he saith also in OC, which really means Hosea, says, I will call them my people, which were not my people, and her beloved, which was not beloved. And it shall come to pass in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall they be called the children of the living God. Because at one point in time, we lost our identity. But now, through the Lord awakening the spirit within us and awakening the valley of the dry bones and the breath being breathed into them, now we're standing upon our feet. And great fear is falling upon those who see the men of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai prophesying in his name. Verse 27, Isaiah also cried concerning Israel, though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, a remnant shall be saved. And the head of that remnant is the 144,000, man, which is not a frequency. This has nothing to do with chakras or, the root chakra or any of that bullshit, man. This is about men who have really been chosen by the Almighty. So I'm going to end this off with the book of Isaiah, chapter 11. And I go to verse 11. This is one of my favorite scriptures. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea. So the Lord is coming back to recover the remnant of his people, of the elect, which are going to be all over the four corners of the earth. From Egypt to Cush, to the Mediterranean, among the Assyrians, the Babylonians. Verse 12, and he shall set an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. And that's ultimately, how the Lord is going to deliver his elect, man. He's going to deliver them from the four corners of the earth by those chariots beaming them up. Salakia. So the 144,000 is not a frequency, man. I don't know what this dude read this information from. He didn't even cite a source, where he got his information from. He just read from a random piece of information. Probably something that he wrote down. But I hope this lesson was edifying. And I want to give all honors, all glory, and all praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh, by Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone GMS, the Ruel, Shalom, Kwam Yasharala, and the Wa Abba Babal.